What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Oh, hell no. Wow, it's not working, huh? Let's see over here. And I hit the explosion. Today we're going to have a discussion about the white groups on the yard. The NLR, the Skinheads in the woods. Which group was the craziest, alleged craziest, right? I know that it seems like there's a lot of people out there that have for a minute people were trying to say there was a big five, they try to add the NLR to that, but there's always going to be just the big four in California. But because of their statuses, they were, the CDC, I believe it was around 98 or so, decided to validate that group as a prison gang. They designated them as a prison gang, whereas the Skinheads, the Woods, the Southerners, Northerners, those are all disruptive groups. Despite what some like to say, that you got to join a gang when you get to prison. No, you don't. There's disruptive groups you're going to run around with. So-called gangs in the CDC would fall under the big four, and you don't have to join them. They don't look for just anybody. There's a whole lot you got to do to even get noticed by them, and then there's a whole lot more you got to do. But anyways, that's not for this video or for YouTube at all, in my opinion. I do want to talk about these three groups, though, between the NLR, the Skins, and the Woods. I have to be completely honest, and I've been on the yard, several yards with NLRs, right? I met good ass dudes that were NLRs. However, I heard of it, but I personally never, on any yard that I was on with NLRs, I never saw them do one stabbing. Not one. I saw them tell people to go do stabbings, but to see them actually do one, no. The Woods, I would say I saw the Woods do more stabbings as far as the whites, right? All the groups. I saw Woods do more work than Skins or NLRs. But there's more Woods than there were Pecker Woods, regular cats, than there was NLR and Skins. So it would make sense that they would do more because there's more of them. Now, having said that, out of the three groups, I believe anyone that has done time with these three groups, I think I would say, from the outside looking in. Now, there could be people within the whites that would say different. I always felt like the rowdiest ones out of all of them were the Skinheads. They were quicker, it seemed, to want to get off. And they were the only group where, for the most part, they were not going to whack another white man for anyone. Where the Southerners can go and talk to the Woods, or the Southerners could talk to the NLRs about an individual, like, look, Holmes, this is what's going on with this dude, this and this and that, and they'll check it out. And if that dude was wrong, they would whack him. Skinheads weren't doing that. Skinheads were going to whack another skinhead if the Skinheads felt he was wrong in their eyes. Regardless of what anybody else thought in their eyes, it was, we ain't whacking no white man for no one. And at times it would get frustrating because there's that whole fallacy that the in the level fours especially, they say, oh, the whites and the southerners, what the hell was that? The whites and the southerners move on everything together, and they're always, and I'm like, where? I don't understand where these people get these stories from, unless they were watching a movie, unless they were watching a documentary of the 70s. And I always, like, not always, there have been times where I've gotten in the comment section and I explained to people, listen, the big four, when they were on the yards, there was one raza group that was aligned with the black group, and there was another raza group that had an alliance with the whites. But those were the big four. Those were not southerners. Those were not northerners. Especially back then, they didn't exist. There was no such thing as southerners and northerners until the 70s. And then when they removed the big four from the main lines and slammed them all down, those agreements didn't remain the same. I don't think on any side. Yeah, there were cordial interactions, but I've said it before, and any wood, skin, NLR will agree. Whites went at it with southerners more than they did blacks or northerners. Southerners went at it more with whites than northerners. Can't say more than blacks though, because that back now there's none of that shit happening, which is great, right? Prison went back to prison where there's in-house, right? But there were times when, and here it goes. Usually, not always, but usually, if the southerners got into it with the whites, it was because there was an issue with a skinhead. And the skins weren't going to deal with that dude because that was one of theirs. They wouldn't do nothing because a Mexican said so. Now, is there instances where something may have happened where they did? Yeah, probably. But I just know in the vast majority of interactions with skinheads, if it's an issue with skinheads, then we might as well just move, because them dudes are gonna be like, fuck that. They'll tell you though, that's the way prison is. It ain't no coward shit. It's, hey, don't trip. Hey, we'll check that out. We're gonna look into it, and then they tell the people, suit up. It's go time. You know, but if I'm being honest, I don't know that I could say one group within the whites was crazier than the other, because, man, I met some dudes that were regular woods, man, that were fucking nuts. You know, I've seen the evolution. I told the story about one, and there were a couple people that figured out who I was talking about. He was a new Folsom with me. I saw him do his very first sticky. His celly was NLR. Came up to me, and this was during the time where the blacks were hitting the whites. Every time the door opened, they were hitting the whites, and we were like, what the hell is going on? And NLR from Barstow came up to me, and he was like, hey, you know, this is going to happen. I said, look, Holmes, you guys keep saying that. I don't want to go to the homie and tell him this, and he gets mad at me. Like, I don't want to be. He's like, look, and he showed me the setup. Like, look, you see where these dudes are posted? See these 4 dudes? And he goes, you see that group that's on the track? He goes, it's going down. I saw it. I said, okay. The shit went down, and it was not a good hit that the dude did. His very first hit he ever did, he did not. He hit the dude. Don't get me wrong. And he hit him in the chest. He went for his heart. But the thing was, is there was a crowd. It was like 4, maybe 6 people, blacks, walking, and they were all young. They were like rider types, right? Gangbangers. Loud. Talking, you know. These guys were, you know, felt sure of themselves because of the things that had been happening leading up to that day. And so we're watching, you know how it is. Like, I let the homie know, and he's like, okay. At first he's like, hey, I don't want to hear that shit. These vatos ain't gonna do nothing. When I showed him, like, hey, look at the setup, or he was like, hey, I noticed them setting up. He goes, all right. I let the homies know. You let the homies know. So of course everybody positions themselves to be able to see it. And when it went down, the dudes that were like rider types, the gangbangers, the loud ones, walked, and they got through. And then there was an old ass black man, and he got stabbed. And I remember the homie next to me, we looked at each other like, what the fuck was that? And those riders turned around when they heard the commotion. They turned around, they jumped in, and I mean, it was decent after that. But the hitter had already spun off after he hit that dude. He hit him like three or four times in the chest. And I remember that dude, the dude that did the hit. I remember him. He used to draw. And we were in A section, 7 block, B7. We're in A section together. He had long, dirty, like reddish hair. He wasn't into politicking. He wasn't into nothing. Then they put that NLR in his cell, and the NLR got in his ear because he was going home, the NLR dude. And he talked him into, hey, Holmes, this is what needs to happen, you know, this and that. And he went out there and he did it. And, you know, wasn't the greatest, you know. If he would have went after one of the younger dudes, a lot of people would have been like, he did that, you know. But he did what he did. He, you know, I told the story. He was a regular Wood. He became a legend. A few years later, I met him again in Pelican Bay, and I'd say after the riot in 2000, and I didn't recognize him. He had a shaved head, but that's not why I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize him because he had the killer eyes. I've talked about this before. He had the black eyes, the empty eyes, that there's nothing there. No care for anyone, only for his cause. And he had tried to kill one of his cellies there in that Sag. The guy broke loose and, you know, the cops wound up coming, and then the next celly he got, he murdered him. That was his way in, right? But so I'm saying I've met dudes that were just regular Woods, man, came in, and, you know, next thing you know, they go to the hole, and their mindset changes. And I, you know, I've seen skins that were like that. I know NLRs that were with it. I personally, like I said, any yard I was on, I saw them tell people what to do. I didn't see them do it. But hopefully that probably didn't help anybody. But hopefully that let people have a different understanding of the groups. You know, and it's funny how people will make that comment, oh yeah, the Southerners roll with white supremacists. Not all whites in the CDC are white supremacists. You know, there's a difference in being proud of being white and thinking white is better than everything else. Those are two different things. I want to say most, not probably isn't most, but it seemed like most of the whites that I met in prison, I don't know about skins, but most of the whites that I met in prison, their old ladies were Mexican. A lot of them. I don't want to say most. A lot of them. So that's why I always trip when I hear that whole, they throw that label around. But, you know, there's a song, Poppin' by Bizzle. And there's a certain line in there when he says something about call somebody a racist and you'll take what they say hatefully. Something like that. So when people throw that racist label around, you're going to hate everything about that person if you don't take the time to get to know them, right? But anyways, that's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like button. Leave a comment and share this with someone else you think would enjoy it. I appreciate your time. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out of here.